it's your boy A6. Today I'm gonna talk about something a little different because this is a major topic that I've been wanting to speak on. I never really got a chance to speak on it, but we're gonna talk about who were the Indians. Because a lot of people get misconceptions with the Indians. They think Native Americans and Indians are the same thing. No, no, they're not. I'm gonna show you all why they're not. So the difference between the Indians and the Native Americans, for one, let me get the definition. Let me honestly get the definition. So with Indian, the word Indian means the original inhabitant, aka indigenous or aboriginal. However, when it comes to these Native Americans that y'all normally see with the feathers and stuff like that, they dress like the Indians. They are not the Indians. They've never been the Indians. In fact, they took on the culture of the Indians because the culture of the Indians was stolen from them by a man named Walter Plecker. And I'm going to get into him because basically what he did, he's the reason why the real Indians could no longer identify as Indian anymore. So basically, in order for all this to me to explain this, so have you guys heard of the 1830 Indian Removal Act? So this is the act that put the Indians on the reservations, or the Native Americans that are actually on the reservations. It put them on the reservations. The Indians didn't get put on the reservations. You know why? Because they said in order for you to identify as an Indian on a census consensus paper, like this is a paper genocide that Walter Plucker made these Indians do. So he said, look, this is what the U.S. government did. They said if y'all want to identify as an Indian, you have to live on a reservation. You have to give up your land and live on these reservations for you to get the reparations that you're owed. The Indians were like, no, we're not going to do that. We were here first. You can't take the land from us. So we ended up not doing that. So what ended up happening, those Native Americans were like, okay, since they don't want it, we'll take that land over there because they really had nowhere else to go. So the one thing about the Indians, I'm going to show y'all why those Native Americans that you see on the reservations aren't Indians. One, the Indians were known to be tribal people. They were very tribal. They warred with each other. Those people over there on the reservations are not tribal. They don't war with one another. They don't war with different tribes. They don't do that. And if they do, it's not on a level where anybody really cares. However, you see the Crips and the Bloods. You see the the cartel. You see how they get down? That's how Indians got down. That's why I say that's proof right there. One, strike one, they don't match that. Strike two, the powwows. Y'all see these Native Americans going to these powwows that you're running around beating drums, like wearing these costumes that look ridiculous. But you see how they do all that? That's because the Indians used to actually do powwows. Here's the thing though. They didn't do the powwows like that where they just randomly beat the drum with no rhythm. We had rhythm. We made beautiful music. And we danced. That's what we did. They're just jumping around acting like the black church. That's this the stuff that they do at their powwows is like the black church. And this is my thing with it. Is I'm like, look, I got nothing against the Native American people. I truly don't mind them. I don't really care. My thing is, I just don't like the fact that they take our term. They get the term Indian when they're not the Indians. The Indians are the blacks and Latinos. The original Indians are the blacks and Latinos. So, for instance, when you see black people say that they got Indian in their blood, most black people don't know that they fully Indian. A lot of black Americans are fully Indian. They don't have any any African in them. Like, I mean, obviously we're related to the people of West Africa, but most of us don't come from West Africa. Most of us were already here. Like this, Like a lot, like the Aboriginals of this land are Black and Latinos, and we've been here for a while. We've been here for at least 1,000 years. That's at least. It's probably a little bit higher than that, but I'm just gonna roughly estimate 1,000 years. My ancestry. One thing that's unique about the Indians. More reason why these average, why these Native Americans can't be Indians. So let me see. So the average height of a native, like, hold on, is this, are these? Hold on, let me see. I'm looking up the average height for Indians. So average height for the Indians in the 1800s is said to be 5'8", right? Those people on those reservations are not 5'8" on average. They're not. Those men are not 5'8" on average. And I think this is just Native, this is just Native American. This is just the Indians in general. 5'8". That's women and men. There is absolutely no way those Native Americans are this tall. Most of them don't grow that tall. And people don't understand the average height being 5'8". I don't think it's necessarily accurate. I think it's actually probably closer to 6 feet and 6 plus. And I'm gonna tell you why I know that. Because one, my mother's side of my lineage, her family were known to be Indians. Her great grandma or her grandma was for sure a Cherokee Indian. She was Cherokee. She was 6'3". She's a woman and she was 6'3". My mom's whole side of the family, they're all like pretty much over 6 feet tall. I didn't get it because I got my height from my dad and them. Like my dad and them, they were 5'11", stuff like that. So that's my height, 5'11". But these Native American people don't grow this tall. They're more likely to be 5'6", 5'7", 5'5". They're probably in that range, and their women are not this tall. Their women are not 5'8". I'll tell you that right now. Now, however, you see it in black people. Black people, we got, look at the NBA. The NBA is probably 85, 90% black. Look at how tall all those guys are. The shortest ones are over 6 feet tall. Now, unless I'm missing something from these Native Americans, something ain't right. I mean, it's so much. I mean, it's so much crap that they be telling you with this history in America stuff, and it's all pretty much lies. I mean, it's all wrong. Damn near every bit of it is wrong. So, I mean, you don't even gotta believe me. What I want y'all to do, I want y'all to look up this man by the name of William Katz. Katz. This is his last name. Katz. William Katz. When you look him up, this is a white man. He's been known for writing books about the Indians. Not only that, one thing that's unique about his books, he all his books say that the Indians are black. The black Americans are the Indians. Why is that? Because during the civil rights time, what a lot of people don't know, in order for black people to be able to vote the Indians, we weren't allowed to vote unless we changed our identity to, instead of being Indian, we got classified as colored, Negro, black, mulatto. Now we go by African American, when in fact, most of us ain't really African. I'm just gonna be honest. Most of us are not African. Now, some of us may be African lineage, but I mean, even then, I still think most people, you need to trace your lineage back. Like when you find your lineage, you're gonna find out your ancestors are not really from Africa. They aren't. A lot of them are gonna be from here. I'm just being straight up honest, and I hate that I gotta be dishonest because most people ain't ready to hear this. The real Indians are Black Americans, Latin Americans. Like the Aztecs, the Mayans, the Incas, Olmecs, those are Latin American Indian groups. Like those are some of the famous ones. There's a lot more. I mean, there's so many Indian tribes. I mean, shoot, if you learn about the Niji Indians and you tell me they ain't black, I don't know what's wrong with you. Like you gotta have something wrong with you if you learn about the Niji Indians and say they ain't black. I mean, this is their culture. This is what they did. They smoked weed, right? Like I read about them smoking weed and pouring out alcohol onto their like they like it was a couple Indians that were like it was white people writing about these Indians that saw they like were burying one of their loved ones. They were pouring out alcohol and smoking weed. Pouring alcohol and smoking weed. What other group of people does that sound like? Like, I mean, obviously that's black people. If you say that's not black people, man, yikes. You're gonna cut yourself in a big hole. Like, I mean, but I mean, that's neither here nor there. My goal for this video is just to show people those Asiatic people, they are not the Indians. Most of them know that. They know they ain't indigenous. We were here before they were. I mean, shoot, look at the animals they hunted. They quote unquote hunted buffalo. You can't hunt buffalo in America because if you're indigenous, because buffalo is not indigenous to the Americas. The real Indians hunted bison. That's one. Two, all these people say that they mixed with some stuff. I'm like, the real Indians wasn't mixing like that. We didn't want that. I mean, now it's a little bit different because we live in a civilized, like the way. Well, I mean, I ain't gonna say civilized. We live in a society where everybody is just it's all different groups of people. But this ain't how the Indians used to live. They didn't live in places like that. It was just blacks. Like even the Latinos, they were fully black at the time. Now they obviously got race mixed. That's why they look. That's why they look different than us. A lot of people don't know that. They come from Negroes, just like we do. It's just the Spaniards on their slave breeding farms. They actually breeded with them. That's why you look at Haiti and the Dominican Republic. The difference between the two groups, Haitians they fought against the French and they won. They weren't going for that French, like they didn't want anything that the French was giving them. However, the Dominicans just accepted it. They lost and they accepted it and they started to intermingle with them. That's why they look more like they're Latin. They like you could tell they're more classified as Latino. But you go to Haiti, they're classified as straight black, and that's the only difference. That's literally the only difference between the two. One group got race mixed, the other one didn't. And I mean, just think about it. Like all this stuff going on. I'm just gonna say it like it is, black folks. We gotta hold on to this stuff because this is ours. Like we don't owe anybody anything. They owe us. They owe us reparations for this stuff. That's why they took this identity away from us. That's what I want y'all to understand. There's a reason why the government, everything that the government does, yeah, the government sucks, but they're very very smart with what they do. They try to take everything we got because that's just their goal. I mean, Walter Plecker, that's literally what his goal was, to take everything we got so that they make sure we don't get rewarded for what we deserve. Because this is our land. We are the real Americans. That's why I don't get what black folks say they hate America. I'm like, no, you don't hate America. You hate the people controlling America. I was like, it's the difference. Because this is our ancestors' land. Like I was like, this is ours. This ain't theirs. This is ours. Honestly, this place might be Jerusalem. I mean, America, North and South America, they have a richer history than Africa. And people call Africa the motherland. There's so many crops that are from America that they ship to Africa. How can you be the motherland if you getting your stuff from another place? That's what I'm saying. People are gonna say, "Oh, the Europeans robbed gold, oil, and all that stuff from Africa." I'm like, they did the same thing to America. They don't tell you that. They did the same thing here, the exact same thing. I mean, I'm telling you, it's the exact same thing. I was like, this land was so filled. And and before I even go on, I want to say something. So, for all you black people saying that we not Indians, we African, let me ask you something. How in the world could we work those plantations? How in the world could we um how in the world could we plant tobacco? Tobacco is indigenous to the Americas. Tobacco was one of the biggest crops during slavery. How in the world? Why in the world would they put us with something we don't know anything about? Let alone, why in the world were we down the southeast area? I was like, we were already here. There's a reason why we were already here, because we knew the land. They didn't know the land. People from another land cannot come into a land and enslave people from a far away land and expect them to be able to plant crops for them, because you don't know where crops grow. However, the Indians did. And plus the whole transatlantic slave trade. It happened, but it didn't happen when we were brought from Africa. A lot of us were taken from the Americas. They don't tell you that. A lot of us were taken from the Americas and scattered through other places. I mean, some of us were taken from Africa, but most of us taken from Africa were not brought over here. But neither here nor there. Theoretically, that us being brought from Africa just doesn't make sense if there was Indians here. Why in the world would you enslave people from a whole nother continent that don't know anything about this land and bring them over and have them do everything in this land if they don't even know the land? That's theoretically, that's impossible. It's literally impossible. I'm not saying there were no slaves from Africa brought over here. I'm just saying, for the most part, most of the slaves from Africa, it wasn't as many as people think. People think it was hundreds of millions. I was like, there's no way. I was like, there's no way. I was like, one, traveling on that cramped slave ship. I was like, dude, people would have been dying left and right. They wouldn't have made it to the Americas like they think. Like, I'm like, there's no way it could have been 100 million people on those slave ships. There's no way. I mean, it's just literally impossible. Literally. But that's neither here nor there. I just wanted to say this stuff. Like, just letting everybody know we the real Indians. And I got in an argument with a guy over this stuff. I'm like, because he really tried to tell me I'm not an Indian. And I'm like, dude, I can show you my lineage. I can show you my lineage. And I'm like, you can't deny it. It's undeniable when I can show you my lineage. So I'm like, I don't want to hear anything you got to say. And this video is directed specifically at him. Because I'm like, hey, I forgot the guy's name. But I know, hey, he ain't going to want to watch this. Because I'll hit him with facts. I'll show him facts. But yeah, please like, comment, subscribe. Sorry, it's a longer video. Wasn't meaning for it to be this long, but yeah. Check your boy A6 out, and I'm out.